So, in today's episode, we are going to highlight the key difference between a static website and a dynamic website. Because as web developers, it's essential to understand the various types of website. What is a static website? A static website is made up of fixed content. So every user sees the same thing, regardless of who they are or what they do. An example is pretty much like a portfolio page, like an announcement page. And static websites are built only with HTML and CSS. So static websites pretty much rely on front-end skills. So no interaction with database or server side. Each page is a separate file on the server, and this is great for simple informational sites. What is a dynamic website? A dynamic website delivers customized content that can change based on users' actions or data preference. For example, a user login, and when they log in, you get to display certain web pages that are related to that account. It involves both the front end and back end developer skill set, and it uses databases to fetch and store content in a remote server. Pages are generated in real time based on user activity. For instance, a user visits their profile page and they want to change certain images on their account. So for each user, you have unique data that are associated with that user. So this is great for interactivity and data-driven sites. So example of a dynamic site is Facebook, YouTube. I've created a comparison table where I highlight unique difference between a static website and a dynamic website. So for a static website, the content remains the same for all users, whereas a dynamic website changes based on users' data or user input. The technologies used for static websites rely heavily on front-end tech stacks like HTML and CSS. A dynamic website incorporates both the front end and the back end stack. And interactivity for static websites are limited. Most people just visit the site to read or pick out the information and they are gone. Whereas a dynamic website has a lot of interactivity, like forms, user accounts, their shopping carts, their playlist, and all of these are associated with dynamic website programming. Now, for speed, a static website will load faster because you're using less to no resources to offer that web page. And dynamic website uses a lot of resources because you're going to be using PHP, JavaScript, CSS, and the speed is slightly slower due to processing. An example of a static website is a brochure site, a basic portfolio site. When to use a static website or a dynamic website. As a web developer, you need to effectively know when to use a static website or a dynamic website. Using a dynamic website pretty much means you are in need of user interaction. You're going to be using login systems, geo tracking in real time, and all of this can be applied into e-commerce websites, social media websites, and blogs. Whereas a static website, the content remains the same and oftentimes doesn't change based on user interaction, like your personal resume or a simple announcement page. To round up, static websites are simple, they are fast, and they're unchanging. They remain the same regardless of the user. Dynamic websites are interactive, flexible, and user specific. So the layout in a dynamic website may depend on the user's interactivity and activities. So as developers, you often need to start with static websites and then develop and grow into dynamic development as you begin to learn back-end skills. So in the next episode, I will be highlighting how a website works in a simplified flow when a user types a URL or domain name and the browser sends the request to the server and the server then responds with the content or an error message. Alright guys, I will see you in the next episode.